Kyoto is known as being the capital before Tokyo. But what about before then? Go just a little bit south and you'll find yourself at the site of the ancient capitals. And there are two ways to get there, from Kyoto or Osaka.
And I'm going on this beautiful Blue Symphony train from Osaka.
The train is run by Kintetsu, the sponsor of this video. And we're going on a journey back in time. Where better to start than with the birthplace of Japan, right here in Asuka.
When we say the birthplace of Japan, we don't mean where the ground shifted to create the island, but rather the beginnings of a centrally governed Japan, instead of a land of constantly clashing clans.
How do we know the ancient capitals were here? Well, that's all thanks to the Nihon Shoki, Japan's second oldest historical records dating back to the 7th century. I'll let that sink in a moment. The year 600, over 1,000 years ago. Today, we're starting with a chapter on a man named Soga no Mako, a huge figure in the beginnings of Buddhism in Japan.
These tombs are believed to belong to Soga no Mako, and while there are many tombs around Japan, this is a rare example of a bare stone tomb without an earth covering.
Soga no Mako was the leader of the very powerful Soga clan, who had close ties to the imperial family. These tombs, often called kofun, were reserved for very important people, mainly emperors themselves, so it is clear just how high Umako's status truly was. One of the most controversial things Soga no Mako did at the time was introduce Buddhism to the country.
He was the one who set up this temple with Japan's first ever Buddhist statue.
His Buddhist faith was believed to be the cause of a plague across the land, and ultimately sparked an outright war with the more conservative rival clans.
Soga emerged victorious and spread Buddhism throughout Japan with the backing of the imperial court and his niece as empress.
Through all this, the Buddha statue and temple miraculously remained. After Umako's niece was on the throne, several emperors later, Fujiwara Palace was built. At the time, a new palace and surrounding town was usually built with each new emperor. This resulted in a number of successive capitals in and around Asuka. But along with Buddhism, a lot of culture and information made its way in from China. Fujiwara Palace was the first attempt at building a planned, larger capital city after the Chinese model, complete with a rectangular street system and city walls. It remained the capital for just 16 years, and evidence suggests that they were still in the process of building it when the decision to move further north was enacted by the new Empress Genmei. Now, just as she moved on from the Asuka area to relocate the capital, we too shall move on to that novel location, which is now the city of Nara. Tomorrow, I'll be exploring Nara, which used to be known as Heijo, and what remains of its palace. But for now, although it's impossible to recreate exactly, tonight I'm attempting to have a taste of the life of a 7th century empress. I'm treating myself to some elaborate meals and serene accommodation by going back to the times of a less crowded Nara, in the tranquility of Tsukihitei Hotel. It is nestled in the ancient woods right by the primeval forest, where logging and hunting have been prohibited since shortly after Empress Genmei's time.
That's good. To be honest, I think I'm having an even more luxurious time than the Empress with my air conditioning and super comfy bed. I think I'm gonna sleep well tonight. It's so nice to wake up surrounded by nature.
With the hotel directly connected to trails up Mount Wakakusayama, I'm starting with a bird's eye view of my goal destination for the day, Heijo Palace. But before I head to the ancient palace grounds, I'm exploring some of what modern Nara has today that could get me into that empress mindset. The history of tea in Japan goes back as far as Empress Genmei's time in the 7th century. But while there is something sophisticated and stately about this tea room, at that time it would not have been drunk by emperors and aristocrats in the way I'm doing now. That practice didn't begin for several more centuries. Instead, it was drunk in small amounts for medicinal and religious purposes, mainly by Buddhist monks, rather than for leisure.
Which brings us here to the Kentoshi ship, on which tea for the monks, among other things, would have made its way in from China and other countries.
This lengthy route in from abroad was essential, as Chinese culture had a great influence on things at the time. Building on yesterday's Fujiwara Palace, this new capital site was chosen to roll out a fresh city layout and legal system based on the Chinese model and introduced by Empress Genmei. This new city, Heijo, was meant to become Japan's permanent capital city. Many of these international cultural goods and marketplace items would have been carried up and down the wide and bustling street that is now Suzakumon Square. That is, when there weren't events and dances being held here. As if one place for fun and festivities wasn't enough, the East Palace Garden was another spot for various banquets and ceremonies. The garden area is thought to have played a role similar to a modern-day state guest house, and has been restored to its former glory of the Nara period based on ancient records. In fact, after the capital moved on from Heijo to Kyoto, the area was abandoned and was farmland for a long while until excavations and restorations began in the 1950s. The garden is one of the oldest known Japanese gardens and is the only spot on the grounds where you can see an original part of the palace in its original position. Which brings us finally to the former audience hall, where the Empress would have held important ceremonies such as New Year's Day celebrations and even subsequent ascensions to the throne. Empress Genmei's reign ended in the year 715, when she abdicated the throne to her daughter, Empress Gensho.
And just as Empress Genmei's reign ended, so too must my time in Nara.
We hope you enjoy every last moment on your Nara trip, just like I have. And if you're looking to enjoy it just that little bit more, you can take a look at Raina's Nara trip here.